The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or Internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Okay, happy Friday. I saw earlier it was Friday. Otherwise, I wouldn't know it was Friday. It's Friday, and we're moving right along, as they say. First up tonight, very kindly provided by way of introduction by Frank Chili as our first guest this evening. His name is Ed Kuberski, and he has some very eclectic things to talk about, and hopefully we'll have some pictures up below his name and guests fairly soon. We're working on that right now. One of the pictures does show Selected by Extraterrestrials, the book by Bill Tompkins, on the top of the photograph, just to give you an idea of the type of territory we're going to enter. Ed is a very interesting man, and I want to see if he's there. Can you hear me? Ed, can you hear?
Hi, Jeff. Yeah. Thank you for having me on the show, and it's an honor to be on the same show that Bill Tompkins was on.
Well, listen, believe me, I thank you for saying that, and I feel the same way, even though I was sort of doing my job. But Bill was here, and we learned so much, and what a delightful human being. What an extraordinary human being. And I've always had the sense that had Bill lived longer, I mean, we did 50, Frank knows, it's 54 hours of radio or something, interviews, wow, talks, just chats, conversations, that had he been able to stay around longer, there were a lot of things that he didn't feel he should have released, that he could have. But if you read between the lines while you're listening, you get the idea that Bill Tompkins knew a lot more than he so graciously shared with all of us. And those programs are all up on the homepage for anyone to listen to. Just go over on the right column and scroll down, or is it the left column? I can't remember. I think it's the right side. But William Tompkins, Bill Tompkins, and Dr. Bob Wood just brought out the latest book. He's got Volume 2 and Volume 3 done. I think he's working on Volume 4. Bill Tompkins did Volume 1, so there will be 4 books, which is what William Mills, Bill Tompkins wanted to have done, and they will be done. So there we go. Now, Mr. Kuberski, sir,
yes.
Where would you like to start with your background, which is quite unusual? You've got a lot of things to say. You've put your foot in a lot of different kinds of shoes, and what's going on? We've got Antarctica, we've got everything. So,
I guess I'd like to start with my father. He was in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he was a radar technician in the Canadian Air Force. who worked on the DEW line, and he was connected with NORAD.
Gotcha.
So that was his background. And I have another family friend, longtime family friend. I call him my brother from another mother. His name is Al, and he's a helicopter pilot. And his father was actually in the American Air Force in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he was at the Bay of Pigs. So
he was physically there?
Yeah, he was a pilot. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
I see.
He was a pilot, so he was part of the Bay of Pigs thing. And, so kind of start there. And my father, when I was 12 years old, there was a divorce, and I ended up living with my grandparents. Mm-hmm. And one day my father took me to a movie, and it was a movie about the Philadelphia experiment. And
before we jump into that, can we go back to the Cuban Missile Crisis a little bit? I
Sure.
assume you were in touch with those people that you knew at that time who were involved with it. We came within an eyelash of thermonuclear
Absolutely.
Armageddon. That's no joke.
My father told me that we went to DEFCON 1, which is, like you said, that's full-on nuclear war.
Right.
So those guys, and Kennedy saved the world in a lot of ways. People just don't realize the magnitude of really what happened. And, they're all heroes, that's for sure, right? So
yes.
Sort of
Well, John Kennedy, he told Khrushchev, he said, all right, we'll take the Jupiter C missiles down. That's what Khrushchev demanded. And I think they were in Turkey, and they were nuclear tipped. And that's what de-escalated the Cuban Missile Crisis. John Kennedy made a strategic command decision to take those Jupiter C missiles out and bring them home. And in exchange, Khrushchev said, we will remove our missiles from Cuba and bring them home. And that was the step down. So I just want to see, you were obviously very young at the time, and were you?
I wasn't born yet. Actually.
That's what I meant. You were very young. See?
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't quite here yet. Might have been somewhere else, though.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But, so he didn't really talk very much about things because military guys, especially at that level, aren't really supposed to. But he did share, a few things with me, and I know that he always knew about extraterrestrials because if you're the radar guy looking for nukes coming over from Russia, because that's what the DEW line is all about.
That's right.
Distance early warning system, and it's still connected to NORAD. So he needed to know the difference between a nuclear missile and an airplane or a spacecraft or, that sort of thing. So obviously there was high-level intelligence that he never did share with me. And he went on to work with the Ministry of Transport, and he fixed all the radar systems at the airports and that stuff, and all like the X-ray machines and that type of thing. One other really interesting thing is you probably
excuse me, Ed. This is your birth father we're talking about?
Yes, this is my birth father, and his name is Edward Elmer Kabursky, and my full name is Edward Richard Kabursky. So so have the same name there. Yeah, so he was part of all of that, and the DEW line. The Cambridge Bay is actually the sort of the headquarters for the DEW line, and my dad, he was always a bit of a shit disturber, if I can say it on the radio. He what happened was all of the people in the military, they have to do something called northern duty, which means your family has to get moved up north and you have to work up there for a while. So we got moved to Whitehorse in the Yukon, and because he was stirring stuff up, they threatened to send our family to Cambridge Bay. And Cambridge Bay is the end of the world, or the last piece of good land in Canada, headed towards Russia. It's very, very isolated. In fact, my helicopter friend, Al, he sent me some pictures from Cambridge Bay because he spent some time there with the helicopters and that because he flew all over the Arctic.
All right.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Now, just one last question. As you look at the world today, and you have a good working knowledge of what the ingredients were in the Cuban Missile Crisis, do you not see an inexorable pattern toward nuclear confrontation now being played out on the world stage?
Absolutely. In fact, I think in 2018 they tried to send a missile at Hawaii. Dr. Salek talked about it, and in fact it was a real one that Space Force shot down. So Space Force has already stopped World War III once already. And absolutely, the current world political scene is definitely trying to sort of send us in that direction. But I think underlying things, it's not actually that way in the world. There's a lot of things that people don't really understand and know about what's happening with all of the I'll call them the White Hats or the Earth Alliance, the people that are trying to make changes, essentially, right? Yeah, so.
I don't know about this White Hat thing. I understand the use of the terminology. I understand who they're supposed to be. It's just, I guess, for the sake of conversation, we'll call them the good guys.
Yeah,
leave it at
that's
that.
actually, yes, absolutely. That's a great way to put it, for sure, right? Yeah, definitely. So when I was 12, my father took me to the Philadelphia Experiment movie, and he told me after that everything was real. And that's where it really started for me with all of this stuff. And very recently, I actually had contact with Peter Moon, who is the Montauk Project author, along with what's his name? He's passed away now. But we talked about the Philadelphia Experiment movie that I saw, and he told me that there was actually a real one. And I think I probably saw parts of the real one, actually. So that's kind of an interesting
What
fact.
is it? Now, what does that mean? You say you think you saw parts of the real one.
Well, he told me that there was real footage of the Philadelphia Experiment, and the movie. And then thinking back, I was 12, so it was a long time ago. But thinking back, I remember seeing, movies of naval ships, and I mean, back in those days there was no CGI or anything, so there's no way they could have, done anything to doctor that. So it was based on the book, the Philadelphia Experiment book, but I think there were sections in the movie that were actually real. And,
okay. So you think that somehow the producers got real footage from the Pentagon or whomever, or the U.S. Department of Navy, and actually put it in that film. Oh, that's interesting.
And
I saw the film. I don't remember much about it, but.
And that's what Peter Moon actually was sort of telling me about, right? So, there's that.
Who was the other guy that you couldn't think of the name? See if you can think of it, the Montauk person.
Oh, actually, I have the book right here. Preston Nichols.
I had Preston Nichols on the program 2-3 times, and great conversations about that. I got to know quite a bit about it. I think I even talked to him off air, if I remember now. But Preston Nichols, sorry to hear he's gone, but he made some major contributions. Well, he pushed that book. He did it.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And for anybody out there, I highly recommend reading all of the Montauk. The first one is called the Montauk Project, and then
how many were there? I forget.
I think there might be 3 or 4, I think, in the series. And to be honest with you, I haven't read the other ones. But I plan on it.
It's a fascinating story, and it's one of those stories where even if only 25% of it's true, it's a hell of a story. I can't attest to it, but it is a fascinating. The place exists. The data is certainly confirmative that something went on there. Very advanced. Go ahead.
I'm actually I have the privilege in about a month and a little bit to have some time with Rebecca Rose Barfoot. And she was a super soldier on Mars, but when she was young, she was part of the Montauk Project as a child.
Huh.
So
I think I've heard the
I'm
name.
really looking forward to talking to her. She's sort of a friend with Elena Danaan, who has written the book The Cedars, and that book, I think, is the most important book written in history because she tells us the true story or the truth about the history of the world and what really happened. And when Elon Musk bought Twitter, I went on the very first day and got on there, and as soon as I got the book read, I actually, I'm just going to find it here, I said to Elena, Elena's new book, The Cedars, is a supernova for our consciousness. It awakens us to who we truly are. And that was on Twitter, and it got retweeted, and it's still being retweeted, as a matter of fact. And there's a really cool picture of it's not a supernova, it's actually a picture of star formation. So the opposite of a supernova. So bringing it full circle, it's star forming, actually. So I managed to find a picture of that. So I posted that with the thing there, and but her book is just wonderful. And even if you don't read the words, the artwork in the book itself makes it a masterpiece because her sketching is just amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so your role in all of these things is pretty much researcher, observer, and you got to know Dr. Paul LaViolette, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what happened was physics has been kind of my thing all the time, like my hobby almost. And I knew that the physics I was learning back in the 80s was just incorrect. Because here's the thing, there was no Big Bang and there is no singularity that the whole universe is energy comes from. That is absolute hogwash. What Paul Violette says is there's a continuous creation of energy, and this is the energy that we draw off that gives us our life force. And also, this is the energy of creation itself. The best way to describe it is all the tiny spaces between the atoms and even between the planets are not full of empty space. They're full of energy, and it's actually the energy of creation itself. Sure. And we can draw off that energy at any time we want to produce free energy or anti-gravity effects or, that type of thing. It's just a whole new way.
It's quite a big secret. If in fact it is, as stated, it's one of the biggest secrets of all. Now, if you look under guests, under Ed's name, you'll see a link, images, and you can scroll down those images and you'll find there's one section about the book that you heard him mention, The Cedars, Seeders, The Cedars. The Cedars is a must-read book that is full of shock and awe moments that awaken the reader to the true extent of our suppressed history. Okay, got it.
Yes, excellent book. So what happened was I took mechanical engineering technology, and in 1986 I graduated with an honors diploma. And because my father was in the military and he was in the Air Force, I went to the military and I approached them, and I wanted to get another degree. That was the thing. So they found me a program where I could get paid to go to school and get another degree and then do some service. So I went into the military in '87. The summer of '87, and in the Navy, in the Canadian Navy, because I wanted the Air Force, but they told me that there was no Air Force programs. I wanted to work on planes and helicopters and whatnot. And they said, no, all we have is a special Navy program, and this program will provide education and then after service after that. So I went in, and I had the shortest. It was the shortest career in the Navy ever. It was less than a month. It was a couple days shy of a month. I didn't even make it past basic training, actually. So it was a very strange moment because I was a poor student at the time, and this was a fantastic program. In '87, it paid me about $50,000 a year to go to school and have all the school paid for and everything paid for 3 years. And then after that, because of the 2 degrees, it was about $100,000 a year after that. So it was a pretty major thing to walk away from. And I was in military law class about 2 weeks before graduation or before the end of basic training. And the instructor, he said, if there's anybody here that doesn't want to be here, now's the time. And it was almost like I was programmed. I just stood up and said, okay. And even to this day, I still don't really know what happened with all of that. And the reason why I'm spending some time with Rebecca Rose Barfoot is she's going to do some Akashic records and try and make some connections and, see if there's anything else that happened during that time. Because it's still kind of a mystery to me, as a matter of fact.
All right. Okay. Anything else about the Philadelphia experiment beside the fact that you think some of the footage in that movie was actually real? A lot of people listening, by the way, Ed, do not know what the Philadelphia experiment was. They don't even know what the Akashic records are, for that matter. But that's okay. This is all about learning, so it's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell them what the Philadelphia experiment was supposed to be.
Okay, the Philadelphia experiment was almost like a stealth thing that they have now, like for the stealth fighter. They were trying to make it invisible from radar. And it actually started with Nikola Tesla's, everything starts with Nikola Tesla. And in fact, he was actually on the project. Most people don't know that. And Einstein actually was, he was working with Tesla and learning from Tesla. But what happened at one point is Einstein didn't take Tesla's advice, and then they had all kinds of problems with the program. But they were able to essentially make the ship disappear, or even, if you want to say, teleport. And they do it with voltages and pulsing voltages and things.
Yeah. Let's hold on.
Right?
I'm going to take a break, Ed. Let me take this break, get this out of the way. We'll come back and spend a little more time on this, because the Philadelphia experiment is one of those things that is often claimed to never have happened by a lot of people, and yet others who were involved with it have come forward to counter those arguments. So it was a government effort to cover up a very advanced, high energy, and Tesla was, I understand, if not directly involved, damn near indirectly involved with it.
He was directly involved, yes. He was the head of it all.
He was quite old at the time. Hold on just a minute. We'll be right back with Ed after this. Okay, and we are back. The Philadelphia experiment. This is it yielded a major Hollywood motion picture at one point. It allegedly took place in, 1940, 43, I think, something like that?
Yes, I think it was 43.
43?
Yeah.
Here, let me pull this up here. Okay, here. The Philadelphia experiment was an alleged event claimed to have been witnessed by an ex-merchant mariner named Carl M. Allen at the United States Navy's Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in Philly, PA, sometime around October 28, 1943. Allen described an experiment where the U.S. Navy attempted to render invisible, this was all about cloaking, ultimately, and making ships invisible, the USS destroyer escort Eldridge, and the bizarre results that followed. The story first surfaced in late 1955 when Allen sent a book full of handwritten annotations referring to the experiment to a U.S. Navy research organization, and a little later, a series of letters making further claims to a UFO book writer. Allen's account of the event is widely understood to be a hoax now. Several different and sometimes contradictory versions of the alleged experiment have circulated over the years in paranormal literature and popular movies. The U.S. Navy maintains that no such experiment was ever conducted and that the details of the story contradict well-established facts about the USS Eldridge itself, and that the physics the experiment is claimed to be based upon are non-existent. Now, that can be taken several different ways. Would the Navy want to admit that they had an invisibility potential that they were experimenting with? No. How would they cover it up? By denial and all the other things that you heard. Carl Allen might have been working for the Navy to specifically try to cover this up. We don't know. But the point is, it's a very interesting story, and it did lead to a major motion picture. And it is tied into Nikola Tesla. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Nikola Tesla it's all about Nikola Tesla because it's about resonance. Tesla's thing was resonance and harmonics and ether physics. So this leads me into going back to Paul Laviolette, and he's got something called SubQuantum Kinetics that essentially what it means is Paul was a quantum physicist who said, what makes up the quantum? Let's figure out what's inside. So that's why it's subquantum. And the kinetics part just means that it's moving because at the end of the day, it's actually all just sound. It's actually just a wave that pulsates, and there's a frequency there.
Yeah, it's a big waveform. Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's all about waves. And ether physics and subquantum kinetics are essentially the same thing. See, Paul is not just a quantum physicist, or was a quantum physicist. He was also an astrophysicist. So he looked at the very, very small, and he looked at the very, very large, right? And what it is the universe is fractal. And what that means is there are patterns that can be seen in the very small. Those same patterns should be seen in the very large, and indeed are. Now, Paul's theory of subquantum kinetics essentially predicts all of these things happening. It's a very, very simple thing where there's only 7 variables and 5 differential equations that actually, those equations and the theory, they essentially tell us everything about the universe, from the big to the small. And there were 14 predictions that were made by Paul with subquantum kinetics. And over the years, every single one of them was proven. So
subquantum kinetics.
Yeah,
I knew Paul Laviolette. I knew Paul.
Wow.
He was a guest on the pro. Yeah, he was over the phone and on the air. He was a guest on the program numerous times over a number of years. And he was obviously a very gifted, brilliant man.
Yes, he was.
See, when you get into terms though, like I'm not saying they don't exist. Subkinetic quantum.
Subquantum kinetics.
No, I got you. I'm just playing with the words in my head here.
Oh, okay.
Quantum, one thing. Subkinetic, another. Tie them together. Subquantum kinetics. Quantum physics. That's the buzzword. People throw it around all the time. You ask them to define that, and most people can't. But Paul was different. I mean, Paul understood. He was a brilliant man, no question.
He was.
And a lot of people took some of the things he did and said and ran with them, and they didn't run in the right direction necessarily. Now back to the USS Eldridge, the destroyer escort that was supposedly made at least momentarily invisible with frequency vibrations in 1943, October 28th, 1943, and the Philadelphia Naval Shipyards. You know where they are. Tesla was allegedly consulting with this program. Now, the October 28th, 1943 test which supposedly resulted in the deaths of a number of sailors whose molecular configurations didn't reassemble properly after the vibrational physics was unplugged from making the ship basically invisible. People claim it did disappear. Some of them got reassembled with pieces of the ship. In other words, they were stuck in metal, some of them, supposedly.
Yes.
But
yes.
The problem with all that is with Tesla, and one of the arguments is that this supposedly occurred October 28, 43. Tesla died January 7, 43.
I can explain that.
Yeah, please.
What happened with Tesla was, I need to go back to SubQuantum Kinetics, because I was saying that everything below the quantum level is just movement or waves.
Right.
Indeed, what it's actually called is a Turing wave. And the frequency that it vibrates at is the frequency of our dimension. If you change the frequency, then you shift us out of our dimension. And Tesla and Einstein didn't listen to Tesla. Tesla said, listen, we have problems with the phasing, which means that we can't bring these men back perfectly in time. And so what happened was Einstein didn't listen. Tesla, eventually passed away. He walked away from the experiment, I'm not sure when, but he walked away from it because they weren't listening to him, and he knew that there was going to be problems. So then they did it, and they had problems. But the reason why the men came back partially in the ship is because the frequencies weren't correct. And in fact, on some of the other men, they built these frequency packs that they walked around with that kept them from disappearing. Because there's a story about two of the sailors, I think, in a bar that walked into the bar and then they just disappeared. And these were two of the sailors that were a part of the experiment.
Uh-huh.
So they basically phased right out of our dimension into another reality, essentially, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So if you change that frequency and change it back perfectly, then the men come back properly. But if it's not perfect,
well, they have to reassemble correctly. And in this case, some of them reassembled as part of the decking or the steel superstructure of the ship. They were actually stuck inside the metal. No way to get them out. That's the story, anyhow. Well, if it happened like that, that is horrible. And I wouldn't be terribly surprised if something like this certainly was tried. I don't know if it was successful. I don't know. I just don't know after all these years. I do know a lot about it, and I understand the theory. But Tesla was dead when the actual experiment allegedly occurred.
I have another insight for you. Nikola Tesla, he did an experiment one day with luckily his assistant was there, where he punched through the fabric of our dimension by going to about 3.5 million volts. And at that point, he found himself out of time. So he was because there's a zero time, or there's a out of time element to all of this, where there's no time. And luckily his assistant grabbed the switch and shut the experiment down. And Tesla himself said that I almost got killed that day. So that is an indication of how they did it. When you go to a certain voltage level and frequency, then you're able to make some pretty fantastic things happen. And it all has to do with the physics, and it's about ether physics. Tesla was ether physics. That was his thing. So what happened was he came from, over Serbia, what's called Serbia now, and came to Niagara Falls and built the hydroelectric dam and started our modern world. And then World War I came along, and he had all these fantastic things like directed energy weapons and things like that. And he
remote
talked to the
control.
US military.
He was the first RC guy too. Remote control
remote
vehicles,
control.
Little motorboats he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and he went to the U.S. government and said, let's use this stuff, and they laughed at him. They said, what is this? So he actually went home, and when he went home, he brought all of that technology back to Russia and that area of the country. And as it turns out...
You mean back to Serbia?
Yeah, back to that area, right? And then here's the thing about Eastern Europe, yeah. And here's the thing about science in Russia. They share everything. It's not hidden like it is in the U.S. So ether physics has always been a part of Russia and their physics. So I have a dear friend, her name is Carmen Miller, and her father, his name was Bill Mueller, and Bill Mueller actually was in the Hitler Youth. He witnessed the anti-gravity craft in Germany.
Well, they were supposedly in Czechoslovakia for a lot of the work, but yeah, okay. So he got to see some of them. Remember, there were two programs in Germany, right?
Yeah. So he was in Hitler Youth, right? So I don't know what he saw, but I personally knew Bill, and in the 80s, Bill, he was a brilliant inventor, and he invented a free energy machine that's with magnets, and it's called the Mueller Dyno. You guys can look it up on the internet. It's world famous. And what happened was there was another gentleman in Vancouver, and his name was John Hutchinson. And John Hutchinson, he was able to float. Oh, wow, there you go. Well, you know what? Carmen knows John as well, actually. John
I knew John back in the day when he was on the program. Is he still alive? I don't even know.
He is. Carmen shared it with me this summer that she's got contact with him still. Yeah. So
please extend my best to him if she has any connection with him that you can do that, because he had some excellent conversations.
I was talking to Frank Chili, and we might want to bring Carmen on with me because my story cannot be told without her. Because her dad, in the early 80s, when I went to high school with Carmen in Penticton, British Columbia, Canada, and her father, even at that point, was just a brilliant inventor. And I knew him personally. I used to go over there and visit, with the family and stuff. And he had some incredible insights. And Carmen, that Carmen actually has, it was built by Nikola Tesla in 1887 and sent to Cornell University. And it is the prototype for the AC induction motor. She actually has that. She managed to get it, and she's actually dealing with the Nikola Tesla Museum in Serbia to authenticate it. But she's also been talking about, when I visited her this summer, she talked about actually starting a Tesla museum in Canada. That's kind of her dream. So I just wanted to sort of put that out there. But her father, when on my 50th birthday party, when we went back to Penticton, I asked Carmen, I said, when was the last time you started your dad's machine? And she said it was about a decade ago. So the next night we went over to her house and we fired up the machine and let it run. And there is an article that was written by Jean Manning. She was the author of Angels Don't Play This Harp. And the article is in Okanagan Life. And I think
she was a co-author with Nick Begich. Nick Begich and Jean Manning wrote the book.
Yeah, Angels Don't Play This Harp, right?
Yeah.
So Jean moved to Kelowna, BC, and she wrote this wonderful article on Carmen and her dad. And I think Frank Chili might have that, and maybe that's something that we can put up so people can see next time or something like that. Because it's all about free energy, and they were on that right from the 80s on. So I've always known about it. I've known about anti-gravity. I've known about free energy the whole time.
We're bringing up some names from decades ago. John Hutchison, very funny guy, a good sense of humor, a real inventor, off the wall kind of an inventor, free thinker, did a lot of different things. He's been on countless TV and other programs over the years, but he hasn't been around lately. He's been, I guess, laying low and enjoying life. But he was right in the middle of things for a while.
Yeah. On the internet, you'll find a really, really old video, like from the 80s, where he's got a 12-pound cannonball that's levitating.
He levitated it, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and he levitated all kinds of other things as well, too, right?
Yeah. He was getting into areas that he wasn't supposed to be getting into, and they didn't make things easy on him for a while. It's his name is, if you want to look it up, it's Hutchison, not Hutchinson. Hutch, I-S-O-N, not I-N-S-O-N. Hutchison. And,
Hutchinson.
No, Hutchison.
Yeah,
John, anyway.
I'm sorry, I don't pronounce things very well.
It's okay. No big deal.
Yeah. So she's an integral part of the story, and what happened was April 1st of 2021, I contacted Dr. Sala with Exopolitics, and a few days before that, I had contacted Elena Danaan, and I'll just read you part of what I wrote. I said, "Hi, Dr. Sala. I asked Elena Danaan to share this with you and to ask her friend Thorhan Iridon, if I pronounced it correctly. If I didn't, sorry, Thorhan, if he thought the world was ready for this information." And what it was 80 pages of handwritten notes from Paul Laviolette on Tesla, anti-gravity, and free energy. Mm-hmm. So that has been circulating for about a year and a half now, I think. And I think Frank Chili's got some copies of that as well, too. So I did that. So, and then what happened on October 30th of 2021, it was an absolutely magical day because David Wilcock told me on a Zoom call that he had bought Stavatti Aerospace to produce hover cars using anti-gravity technology from the Pius patents. And I was like, wow. So the very next day, on his forum, I posted the theory of anti-gravity, according to Paul Laviolette, because I said, I know this theory. And oddly enough, it ended up number 51 on his forum, which is a little bit strange. So that happened. But that same day...
As in Area 51. Mm-hmm.
As in Area 51. And that same day, Frank Chili had his MUFON where he talked about where the Rockwell space chart and everything went. It was that exactly the same day. And the other thing that happened that exact same day was Elena's second book, not The Cedars, but her book called We Will Never Let You Down. It was printed that same day, October 30th of 2021. So that was like the most fantastic day of sort of release of information sort of thing. It was a magical day.
Oh, very good. All right. Well, that brings us just about to the end of this edition. Anything you want to add real quick that we didn't get a chance to talk about? We've got about a minute.
Yeah. What happened after I posted that was Carmen read it, and there was one sentence in there that I said, the key to this is a gravity gradient. And when she read that, she actually got a hold of me, and she asked me to edit a book called New Aerospace Technologies that was written by Alexander Frolov, the former owner of the Faraday Lab in St. Petersburg, Russia. Mm-hmm. And this book is all about ether physics. Mm-hmm. And I read through it, and it definitely goes with SubQuantum Kinetics. These two theories are one and the same, essentially. It's just that Paul took it one more level to the subquantum level to finish it. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this, but I nicknamed Paul Laviolette Tesla 2.0 for that very reason, because he finished Nikola Tesla's work.
Well, Paul was a very remarkable man. I do know that. So thank you, Ed, for bringing this information. It's a nice little survey, kind of a blast from the past, which continues onward. Very good. All right. You thank Frank for me and take care of yourself. And we will wish you the best as always. Keep at it.
I will, and thank you very much for having me on. It was great. It was a great honor, like I said before. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks very much. All right. You take care. Be well.
Yep. You too.
Okay. We will be right back with hour 2 and lots ahead. Hang on.